Welcome to Insights into Insurance from the A-Team at Americana Insurance Group. All information provided is educational in nature and not intended to be acted upon without first consulting the appropriately licensed professional.
It's a Saturday morning. That means it's time for Insights into Insurance with Americana Insurance on KATE. Mike Whittis, your host, along with just one of the professionals at Americana Insurance with most of the answers anyway to your questions on insurance needs. Good morning to Tom Sorensen.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Look, this Saturday we've actually have a special guest via the phone line, and I'll let you do the introduction.
Yeah,
to Rich.
well, we've had this special guest before, but he's so special we need to keep having him. So I'm going to introduce Rich Morrison. He's the manager of marketing services with Diversified Services Marketing Group. Boy, that's a lot to say there. He's a son, husband, father, friend, retired coach, and a Green Bay Packers owner.
We won't hold that against you, Rich.
Yeah, we do. Show's done. How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show today. Well, today we kind of got a unique topic. For farmers, this might be kind of like old news, I don't know, but we got a lot of listeners to this show that love listening to things about just different things that they can get information on. And maybe for some of our farmers, maybe this will be news that they didn't know on everything and they are afraid to ask, maybe sometimes too. So what we're going to try to do is kind of have a grain marketing 101 class today within our 15-minute radio show period. Do you think we can get that done, Rich?
I think we can.
No, okay, we'll try. Well, Rich, let's go over what are some of the choices for farmers to sell their grain?
Well, I think really when it comes down to marketing, producers have a few different choices. First off is just selling it to the cash market closest to them, the grain elevator, the ethanol plant, whatever the case is, but just making a cash sale either across the scale or a forward contract.
So basically,
some farmers get a little more advanced, are able to use futures markets for hedging. We're able to use the options market. So there's some different tools that are available depending on your level of expertise. So
basically, cash market can be something like the guy's harvesting, and he's taking the grain right to the elevator without having it contracted, but he's taking it right to the elevator. Or a farmer has some grain in the bin, and he's saying, "Well, I'm going to haul some grain to the bin or to the elevator today." Correct? Is that pretty much your cash market?
That's basically it. You're just selling the local bid at the time you decide you want to haul. The advantage, I guess, to that is it's easy and it doesn't take a whole lot of thinking to put that into play. The negative there, a lot of times, if you're hauling out of the field in the fall, you tend to get the lower basis levels or the weaker prices for the year. So, it's an easy way to market, but it's oftentimes leaving some on the table.
Right, and then some of the guys that I know that do cash, sometimes they'll actually bring it to the elevator, or I should say, sometimes it might not be considered cash; it might be future. But if they don't have the storage, they'll bring it to the elevator, and they have to pay a fee to store that grain. Correct?
Well, that's true, and so you have to weigh those against each other.
Right.
Am I better off to pay the storage fee? Maybe take additional shrink if I have to do that, versus just selling it across the scale, taking my money. And sometimes it comes down to, can I make money at this price? If I have a profit in it, then it's maybe not as hard.
You got a side that wants more space, 'cause every day starts like a race. You got a side that loves that style, but to fit in those shoes gonna take a while. Today life's got you running, tomorrow big things are coming. Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
To learn more about how Nationwide can help protect your many sides, call Americana Insurance Group in Albert Lea and Wells.
About the cash market, we kind of went over that, but maybe you can talk a little bit about the futures market and as far as what are some of the advantages and disadvantages on the future side of things.
Sure. The futures market gets a bad rap, I think. The futures market, by definition, is trading the value of a commodity, not necessarily right now, but in the future. And so a lot of the trade that takes place in the futures market is anticipation, anticipating the crop size, anticipating what demand is going to be like in the year ahead, anticipating whether or not we're going to get a trade deal done with China. So those are the things that tend to impact the futures market, and our cash prices are based off of the futures prices. But farmers can trade futures. You can trade through a futures exchange, usually through a commodity broker. Our business, we have a few folks that broker both futures and options, and the futures market gives the producer a lot more flexibility. If you trade futures, you're not locked in to any particular buyer or end user. So one day when you decide you want to price corn or soybeans, a certain buyer may have the better bid, but by the time you're ready to deliver it in the fall or in the winter, maybe another market steps up and is a hotter bid. And so trading futures allows you more flexibility in your marketing versus locking in with a particular end user. And then options are probably the next step versus trading futures. An option is basically an opportunity to either buy or sell a futures contract. And options really work a lot like, for instance, land options, where if you buy an option on a piece of land, it gives you the right to buy that piece of ground, usually by a certain date, but you're not obligated to it if you decide you want to walk away. And commodity options are the same thing. It'll give you the right to buy or the right to sell commodity futures if you decide you wish to do so. And from a producer standpoint, put options, most producers of grain would look at using because it gives you the right to sell futures at a given price. And, if we go back a couple of months ago, we had a lot of farmers that were looking at buying $10 put options on soybeans. It gave them the right to sell $10 beans, but they weren't obligated to it. Now, today, that would look like a really good deal.
It would.
And so that's how the options market works. We've had producers here recently buying call options, which gives them the right to buy futures, basically against sales that they've already made, just in case the market goes back up. Maybe they want to buy those sales back. So there's some different ways that we can utilize the options to give you more flexibility. And one person I used to work with said that an option is an admission that you don't know which way the market's going to trade. But at least it allows you to maybe lock in a price floor and keep yourself some room in case the market goes up.
We're visiting with Rich Morrison, the manager of the Marketing Services, Diversified Services Marketing Group. And Rich, another one is hedging. Maybe describe what hedging is and some of the advantages and disadvantages of hedging.
And really, hedging is similar to what we talked about with the futures market, but it's utilizing the futures market to lock in a guaranteed price. And so if you get to, go back a month or two ago when we had corn trading 410 to 420 December futures, when we had soybeans trading 1050 to 1060, producers could hedge through the futures market, lock in that price, futures price. A lot of grain facilities, grain elevators will allow you to hedge through them as well. And so there's different ways to be able to lock in a price and essentially hedge a profit if you can make some money. And so that's what we're really focusing on when we put together a marketing program.
Hey, Rich, so could a farmer actually sell grain on the futures market, but then he doesn't get enough grain when he harvests that he doesn't fulfill that contract? Then what happens?
Well, if you sell on the futures market through, say, the Chicago Board of Trade, for example, if you hedge, you're not obligated to delivering those bushels. All you're obligated to is the price that you sold. And so at some point, the way a typical hedge would work is if you, let's say I hedged $4 December futures, if corn goes down to $3.75 in the fall, I would buy back my futures hedge in Chicago, and then turn around and sell the cash grain at the facility that I want to deliver it to. And so I would make 25 cents on my hedge, but I would be selling my cash bushels. If I don't have the bushels to sell, then it's just a paper trade on the hedge, so it doesn't cost me anything necessarily to get out of it.
Of all of the choices, Rich, which one do you see as the most popular choice?
Well, certainly most producers sell cash grain, either delivered that day or even forward contracting, where they lock in a cash price for future delivery period. Those are still the most popular. I still don't know what percentage use futures and options. I'm guessing it's probably less than 25% that do it through a broker. Probably the biggest drawback there is the cash outlay to a futures hedge, where you have to maintain margin. If you trade options, you have to pay the option premium up front. So that's probably the biggest drawback to most producers. They don't want to get in a situation where they have to send money to Chicago, but the other side of that is it gives you a lot more flexibility in your marketing program.
You've talked about the Chicago Board of Trade, Rich, the Chicago Board of Trade price and local price. Maybe explain a little bit to our listeners, what is the difference?
Yeah, that difference is the definition of that is the basis. And I think we mentioned basis earlier, that typically the biggest spread in that basis tends to be at harvest time, where we see the cash prices quite a bit lower than the futures price in Chicago. Sometimes throughout the year, that basis tends to narrow, and the basis is just a reflection of the value of the cash commodity, and that value is determined by transportation costs. It's determined by the supply that's moving at that time. It's determined by the demand of the end user market. So there's a number of factors that come into play in determining basis, but it is really a true read of the supply and demand of the product and the ability to get that product to where it ends up needing to go. And we've seen it the last few years. The bigger the crops are, we tend to see wider basis levels. When crop size is narrower and demand is strong, we tend to see strong basis levels. And right now we're in a period of plentiful production, I guess, and basis levels have been fairly wide the last couple of years.
Right. I'm sorry. Rich, can you kind of give us an example of right now where the corn basis is, typically what you're seeing right now out there in bean basis?
You know what? I couldn't tell you by location, but I know that we're seeing some decent corn basis in the eastern corn belt, maybe not as much as you go further west. But I think that there's still a plentiful amount of old crop corn left out in the country. The government says we're going to carry somewhere around 2.1 billion bushels of corn forward as of the end of this month into the new marketing year. So, generally that means basis levels tend to be a little bit wider than normal. Soybean stocks are expected to be very large as well here at the end of this month as we carry into the new crop year. So we're seeing bean basis very wide, the widest it's been in quite a few years. And I think when you couple that with the trade issues we're having with China right now, there's folks that are nervous that we're not going to see many bean sales out of the field this fall. So I've seen, like over at the river, bean basis widen to the widest levels it's been in many, many years right now, just because of nervousness over the end users being available here this fall. So I'm really nervous about bean basis getting into harvest, that it could widen out a little further if we don't see a change to the trade situation with the Chinese.
Hey, Rich, I have a few things that I think that are important about marketing your grain, and basically I think it's have a plan, what is your break even, and put crop insurance obviously within your plan. Is there anything else that they should consider?
Well, I think those are the list right there. I think number one probably is what is your break even. If producers know their cost of production and their desired profit margin, then they can put together a plan that's going to help them achieve that level. And it's hard to shoot from the hip when you're marketing if you don't know what you're aiming for. And so we've always encouraged producers to know your cost of production, what does it take for me to make the desired profit margin that I need? And when the market gives you an opportunity to lock that in, then we need to do it. And I think we've had that opportunity this year. Maybe not so much in corn, but I think soybean prices traded well over $10 for 4 or 5 months this spring. And given an average crop, I think most folks could probably make a little bit money there. So the other side of that you mentioned is crop insurance. And when you're buying a crop insurance policy, your policy is giving you a bushel guarantee. And so we encourage producers to know what that bushel guarantee is and then take those number of bushels and put that into your plan. How am I going to sell those guaranteed bushels when the market gives me a chance to lock in a profit? And those 3 pieces right there are what it really takes to build a successful plan, and then the execution of the plan is the 4th step, and just getting it done.
Lastly, Rich, what can Diversified do quick and how can they contact anybody with Diversified as far as marketing and things like that?
Well, we have a marketing office just outside of Chicago in St. Charles, Illinois. The phone number there is 888-926-0985. Any of the folks in the office would be more than willing to visit with folks, listen to your concerns. What are you trying to achieve? What is your goal? And we can help you build a strategy depending on how risk-averse you want to be or how aggressive you want to be in your marketing. We also, through our crop insurance side, as you're aware, Tom, we have different tools, different matrices that we can work with, a profit matrix tool that can allow you to plug in your expenses and then
it's a great tool.
Put in some marketing alternatives and then be able to figure out what it's going to take to make money. So we've got a lot of different tools to be able to help you.
Oh, yeah, you guys got a lot. The best I've ever seen. So just so that everybody knows, they can contact American Insurance at 507-377-2000 to get Diversified Crop Insurance, or if they want to contact me on how to get a hold of Rich or anybody else as far as in the marketing division, they can contact me and I can forward the information to them too if they didn't catch the number right away there. And then go to our website at americaninsurance.com, or they can email me at insights@americaninsurance.com, or go to our Facebook page.
All right. A fast-moving Saturday morning. Rich Morrison, the manager of the marketing service, Diversified Services Marketing Group. Rich, it's a mouthful of your title, but you're very knowledgeable, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rich.
All right.
Yep, thank you.
That'll wrap up our edition of Insights into Insurance on this Saturday.
You've been listening to Insights into Insurance from the Americana Insurance Group. All information provided is educational in nature and not intended to be acted upon without first consulting the appropriately licensed professional.